the fiat system, the banking system, is actually helping make the case for why Bitcoin is a necessity here. And I think that that's something that we have to all kind of take note of, and then also say this is a major step. I think we're going to look back at this period and say this is one of the key moments why Bitcoin is now such a major asset in 5 or 10 years from now.
This is exactly why Bitcoin was created back in 2008, right after the financial and banking crisis. It's very funny that the Federal Reserve is continuing to raise interest rates, but they're causing these businesses to fail, like the banks, and then they're printing more money to bail them out. It doesn't make any sense at all. This is why Bitcoin is the solution to all these problems with government controlled money. So in today's clip, we'll be checking out Gareth Soloway's recent thoughts on Bitcoin and crypto, where he thinks Bitcoin is headed next. He is a short-term bear, but a long-term bull for Bitcoin. The Bitcoin bros don't really agree with where Gareth Soloway thinks that Bitcoin is going in the short term. He is a short-term bear, but I don't know what you guys think about that. Do you think that Bitcoin will be hitting some of these price points you'll be seeing in? Do you think Bitcoin will be hitting some of these price points Gareth talks about in today's clip? So stay tuned for that. Let me know your guys' thoughts. Put it in the comment section below. But let's go ahead and see what Gareth has to say here.
So ultimately, do I think that the selling in Bitcoin is over? No, honestly, I don't. I think that in the short term, the fear in the banks caused a lot of money from banks to go into Bitcoin as a safety play. I also think that we saw USDC decoupling over last weekend. People said, hey, I don't even want to be in stable coins right now, so I'm going to go into Bitcoin as well. So I think that was kind of the reason for this latest move. I think once the financial system comes a little calmer, then you might see Bitcoin head down. And I still worry that if I'm correct that the S&P is going to drop another 25% or so from here, then I do think it drags, just by fear, it drags cryptocurrencies lower overall. Now, long term, I'm a huge bull on Bitcoin, and I think I get classified as a bear because I've talked about a fall since 69,000. But long term, I still love it. I think it's the future of the digital gold world. And I think that there's a real need, and we see it today. There's a real need for Bitcoin. Yeah, so I think you have to be looking at in the course of this year. By the end of the year, I likely think we'll at least hit 12 to 13,000. And the basics of this are that, number one, we have to still wait for regulation. So especially with the uncertainty, I mean, yes, the banking situation has pushed money in here, as has the USDC issues. But I think ultimately we have to remember that you're at a point where regulation is still keeping big money out, and that people are still subject to absolute fear. So when we get in a scenario where we start to see more and more panic selling in the markets, in the economy is starting to dip into recession, my guess is it gets sold across the board. So assets, maybe gold survives in that period and doesn't dump, but even during COVID, if we remember the COVID collapse, even gold dumped. And that's where I kind of think that we're going to see the big dump on Bitcoin, one final flush down. I'm going to be waiting and nibbling kind of once we get in that sub 15,000 level, all the way down to 9,000 if it gets there. So in the near term, right, so based on what's going on in the banking system right now, it actually has had a little period of this is a safety play to put money into Bitcoin. But if you look historically at Bitcoin, it's gone down when the stock market's gone down. And I think that isn't fully decoupled yet. I think we're seeing these flashes of what Bitcoin can be, this amazing asset that is a protection asset against other issues in the global sphere, but it's not quite there yet. It's still an immature, right? It's a 14-year-old, so it's a teenager. It's wild. It's crazy. We have to be ready for that. And I do think when the S&P, if the S&P dumps as much as I think, Bitcoin will get caught up in that selling. Remember, a lot of these assets, there's kind of cross breeding, meaning that as we see stocks drop, they're going to be margin calls, and they may have to be met through selling some of crypto. So it kind of all gets caught up in that scenario.
So with Gareth thinking that Bitcoin will go down to sub 15,000, that current prices at the time of this recording, Bitcoin is currently trading at around 24,000. That would be a move to the downside of around 40% to get to like 15K, which isn't really that unheard of in Bitcoin. Very, very volatile. The Bitcoin bros don't really agree with Gareth's short-term prediction because we are hitting these long-term trend lines here. And right now, the lowest on this trend line is like 19,000. That doesn't mean we can't wick below this at all. So we just think that Bitcoin hit its low back here around 15.5 December, November of last year. and we're starting a slow trend to the upside here. Inflation is starting to go down. Max pain is behind us for Bitcoin in this cryptocurrency market, but we've seen stranger things in the past. Let us know what you guys think about that. Gareth is about to show us some TA here. Let's go ahead and check it out.
Yeah, so Bitcoin ran into a ton of resistance. We can see again on the chart here, the high from August of 2022. That's exactly what we've hit over the last couple days here, as well as about a month and a half ago. And my guess is what we're going to do is we're going to come down and test this level of two major trend lines that coexist here at around 18,200. That's going to be a technical bounce level, no doubt about it. But if we break that, then we head to that 15,600 level. You break 15,600, and then the next stop is that 12 to 13,000 level. So again, my projections are showing that eventually that will happen, likely by year end, and we should revisit that 12 to 13,000. I think the 10,000 break to 9,000 would be a case of the all-out bloodbath that would actually put in the bottom. As you think about how many people probably have stops right around 10,000, and that break point would create max fear, which actually is how bottoms are made. Yeah, so right now, right, I mean, if we look at inflation and what it's been over the last 12 to 18 months, and then what Bitcoin's done, we see it's definitely not a hedge, right? It's definitely not. Bitcoin has come down from 69,000 all the way bottoming out to 15,600. So that's not the case at this point. I do believe it becomes that asset in the future once we get regulation in there, we get transparency and all these other things. But yeah, right now that's not the case, even though it's showing glimpses of what it wants to become. Like, think about this, right? You have a 14-year-old and you go out on the basketball court, or you go out and they show you a couple glimpses of being a superstar, but they're not a superstar yet. So Bitcoin is doing just that. It's got to mature. It will mature, and it will be that superstar down the line. I would say you got to give it another 3 years or so. We got to get through this area. We got to get transparency with regulation. So let's get the regulation out there. I'm rooting for them to get regulation out there. The sooner the better, because we have clarity as investors. Investors love clarity. We want to know that our money's safe. We want to know what's going on with our money when we're investing in things. That's the best case. I think, again, 3+ years out, it becomes that mature entity and can actually thrive.
Gareth Soloway, and don't sleep on Gareth's predictions. He was calling the Bitcoin top back at 69K when not a lot of people were calling it. I know we don't technically agree with Gareth's short-term prediction. You guys might not either, but it's definitely something you need to take into consideration when investing in Bitcoin, into crypto, because we could potentially be going lower. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. If you guys haven't checked it out yet, you can be a member on our channel. We do exclusive content, in-depth content just for our members, so check that out. There's a join button down there right by the subscribe button. You get some perks that come along with that, so check it out if you want to. Totally up to you. But thank you for watching all the way to the end. If you found any value, make sure to hit that like button. My name is Aaron from the Bitcoin Bros. I'm out. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great rest of your day.